My name's Conner Ives, and I am the creator of the Protect the Dolls t-shirt. I am originally from the States. I've lived for the last 10 years in London. I had this idea the night before our Autumn 25 runway show, which was shown back in February, that I wanted to make a t-shirt. There was kind of a precedent that was set maybe in, what is happening right now.
I think right now in the US, in the UK, I know this is true in Brazil, and it's sort of a
Yeah,
growing sentiment that people are against trans folks. These global headlines make us feel like the world's against us.
exactly.
And it's so loud that it creates this illusion that that's the majority, of
Yes,
people's
exactly.
views. That's the majority of people's perspective on us.
It feels like we are sometimes living in two alternate realities simultaneously. There's the alternate reality where we have, the people that we choose around us, the people that we know and love. I would like to think that the majority of people I know and am friends with have a conscience, and that is at least kind of a shared conversation of, what is going on here, or where is this hysteria coming from, because it's not based on anything outside of, this political theater. How do we kind of address that in a non-miserable way? And I think that that quip is kind of the root of this whole thing. And night before the show, my team and I were sitting around, throwing around slogans, what we would put on a shirt, which led to the Protect the Dolls. Maybe the reason that, the catchphrase caught on, rather than coming, in with testimonials or facts or, kind of percentages. I feel like we've tried that already, and like they just don't listen. That I think that this was maybe a way to simplify down the message to something that could just be said in 3 words. It's led to a lot of conversations that I've had with, maybe not friends, but people even coming to the brand and asking like, well, what does this mean? I've seen so much around Protect the Dolls. Can you maybe explain like what this means, what this represents and stuff? And you've then created a teaching moment for maybe someone that doesn't, hold these kind of like struggles like in their kind of immediate, headspace. And I mean, that, feels like accomplishment in its own right. Just at least the conversation is being had in so much of a, more universal scale.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've thought about for years is that one of the weaknesses of the trans movement is we don't have a quote unquote love is love. We don't
Yeah,
we don't have a simple mantra. We
exactly.
have data, we have science, we have complex social theory,
Mm.
but we haven't had a protect the dolls. So many more people can enter into. And so I think that that's a part of its power and that's a part of its grip right now on popular culture is that more people can relate, more people can access the message.
It was so much easier to talk about this t-shirt because it was a very easy story to tell of we literally made this, 10 hours ago. I
Mhm.
just wore it. And then, I think we woke up the following day and the post on ID had something like 20, 30,000 likes. And our inbox was then just full of people saying, where can I buy this? I will be the first to say at no point in this whole process were we ready for any of the response, And as of right now, I think we've sold over 5,000 t-shirts and counting. It's so funny, even, talking about it as a product. I mean, you forget almost that you're dealing with customer service, you're selling a product and stuff, but we've just asked everyone. I mean, some people were waiting a few weeks for their t-shirts. We say we're doing this with love. All we ask is that you do it with love as
Yeah.
well.
I would love to know how you found Trans Lifeline and why you picked us.
So that morning, I mean, the first thing we saw was just the response to the t-shirt. I think there was maybe somewhat of an inkling going into it of like, it was more so like a dream or a hope, like it would be really nice if this did catch on, maybe we can do a small little fundraiser here. My responsibility then is finding someone that we want to work with. And I think finding Trans Lifeline, I had heard of you guys before. And I think maybe what really sealed the deal for me was reading your quip somewhere where this is a trans-led US-based charity benefiting trans people. A huge hesitation for me for a long time of kind of doing these things with my own label. I really didn't want it to be about me. And I think that that's sometimes the danger of, having your own eponymous labels, that you become the spokesperson for it. And I wanted this to be bigger than just me and myself, because it is. And it has nothing to do, I say this to anyone, even people kind of saying like, oh, you're doing so great. Thank you. Totally appreciate it and stuff. But I think, again, we like need to kind of give the thanks to the people that are actually, I'm not the one picking up the phone, helping these people, answering the phones. I think that was really why I wanted that to go where it was going.
Do you have advice for other brands who want to approach something this way? Other brands who do care about real solidarity with movements and with communities of people. What would you share with them?
Expect nothing in return, because whatever you get then in return just feels like um, so much further than what your expectations could have, ever imagined. This is not something that we are doing because, we want the write-ups or articles on it and stuff. I think that's a beautiful benefit of doing something where, all the proceeds can go to charity and stuff. I think we've seen such a response from that. I think that that's been maybe the biggest fuel. I mean, the celebrity kind of endorsements, everything that goes along with that has really helped. I think in the modern day, there are actual teams, that their main job is to kind of like artificially create moments like this. And it's been really inspiring to kind of see that there is still hope in organically selling a product that, I mean, we've done next to no promotion for. We've been kind of given so many kind of graces with people just identifying with the slogan, identifying maybe also with the aim of the project, and then just kind of running with it. It's just been really rewarding to, hear these stories from real people where, it's a mom saying, I am the mom of a trans daughter. I think and worry about her every day. Thank you so much for your services. I'm so glad that this is going to, a service that, even we've used, or she's mentioned, like I reached out to them in times when I didn't know who to ask. And then, the further reactions of coming from, firsthand from people saying, I've called Trans Lifeline and, they've saved my life multiple times or something. It's like, it's almost, there have been moments in this where you almost feel like you couldn't write this. It feels so just perfectly aligned with what our intentions were from the beginning, where I said it was like, all I want is just, this to go to a source that we kind of, know and trust and like are inclined to work with. I think you have to be as upfront and honest as possible, and you have to be able to answer those questions. That's been the lesson for me. I have a lot of customers almost saying, oh, $100 for a t-shirt, that's a lot of money. And I will be the first person to say, I don't remember the last time I spent £100 on a t-shirt. But I think also, what we try to do with those people is we send, this is our breakdown of costs and expenses. This is the money that goes towards the making of the t-shirt. I mean, at every step in our production process, we're still ensuring, the the t-shirt blanks that we use are made from a 100% organic cotton. They're made in, fair trade environments. We ensure that, the factories that we're sourcing these from are, have the reputable papers. That I really welcome all of those conversations because I think it only makes us better. And still to be able to show that, over two-thirds of the portions of these proceeds are going to a charity. And I mean, when you look at then the results of that, it would be so disappointing to me to do all of this work and turn around and be like, here's, this much money and it's like this much when it feels like almost like the results of it were this much. And so many things that we had to kind of even learn just overnight, how do we get, a run of 5,000 t-shirts in, 2 to 3 weeks so people don't, kind of like fight with us in our, inbox and stuff. Well, I don't want to be arguing with someone that almost thinks that, this t-shirt is too expensive to begin with. But I think, you can say to those people, like, I totally get where you're coming from. And we've inclined those people, make your own and, give a donation to Trans Lifeline that you can, that you see as appropriate, because that's all that we were trying to do with this
Mhm.
piece. And that's been the most inspiring part, I think, also. It does feel like, maybe having taken those steps, it feels now like it's turned into something bigger than just a t-shirt. And I think that that's what has been, the most like overwhelming in a positive way to me. It's become, I mean, there was recently a trans march on Saturday, given, the UK's hostility and the Supreme Court ruling. But people carrying signs down the road saying protect the dolls and stuff. I think it's so nice when it becomes a universal concept that is like for the people as well.
Yes. Yes.
We don't own that phrase. I mean, there was a conversation even that came up the other day where it was like, do we want to trademark this or something? I was like, honestly, no, because it's not mine to own. And I think that that's the whole thing that's been so rewarding. The tiny little seed that we planted, sometime in like the end of February has like grown into like 200-year-old tree or something, with like the thickest branches in the world or the thickest trunk or something. I'm trying to create some like beautiful metaphor here, but yeah, it feels like it's become something that's much bigger than me or anyone that, works for me as well. And that's the best part.
Thank you.